Back, I was able to get the butter down a little bit, and I know the lighting's real bad so you can't see, but I was able to get it down a little bit. I don't know how easy it's going to be to mix, but I know that it's not frozen rock solid like it was before. So once again, I have the flour, the sugar, the baking soda, the baking powder, and the vanilla extract. And now I'm just going to mix it. I'm using chopsticks because I don't have a fork except for plastic ones, and I figured the chopsticks would blend it better. So that's what I'm doing. And with cookie dough, I always find that even though it's going to have a room temperature, you don't really want it melted because you still want the cookies to have their consistency. So again, I'm just mixing here. And pretty soon it should all be mixed together very nicely, and I should have a nice cookie dough. And again, all of this is from scratch, very easy to make. And I have to tell you guys that when I was growing up, I'm almost 40. I'll be 38 in a week actually. And the thing is, when I was growing up, everything was homemade. They started probably when I was about a teenager, trying to get everybody to go into the stores and buy these processed foods. And the way the country has changed over the years, it went from the feminist movement where the mommies weren't at home anymore, cooking everything from scratch. And the way that, and they still made do, even though, they still made do, even though they weren't buying all these processed foods. But then they started advertising more and more. It's more convenient. It's the cool thing to do, So they started buying these processed foods that take about the same amount of time that it would take for you to make everything from scratch on your own, And it's really such a shame because those processed foods have so many chemicals and preservatives and all of that in it. And when you make your own, you can you start to learn the chemistry of putting stuff together. And if you wanted to taste a little bit this way or a little more of this consistency, you can do that simply by adjusting a little bit of maybe one ingredient or the other. It's almost like when you're working with color wheels, like the hexagram, the RGBs of different colors when you're doing your web pages and things like that. And once you start making up your own colors, it's easy because you start to realize, oh, if I put a little bit of this, it'll make it a darker value. And it's the same thing with cooking. It's the same thing with anything. The whole world is full of, chemistry. That's what it's all about. And the more you practice at something, the better that becomes. There are things, like I'm a very artistic person. So artistically, when it comes to me and getting into myself and doing things for me, chemistry is awesome. I do need to work on the chemistry, when it comes to people that are maybe, not on the same wavelength as I'm on. But again, with practice, everything makes perfect. And some things we're better naturally at than others. So this is taking an awfully long time. So I'm going to take a break and get this to mix up a little bit better. And then I'll come back. Or I can tell y'all the story while we're waiting about the way the system and American society has changed over the ages. My family is bicultural. I come from an Afro-Asian family. My mother's Asian, I guess Asian American. I don't know if she's legit or not, but she's Asian. She's South Korean. My father was Black American, and my father's family was very country. And my mom, Korea back then in the early 70s, was very very old school and country too. So you have two parents that, basically my dad's family had farms in North Carolina. My mom's family, just Korean country people. So I'm smelling something here. So the thing about it is that everything was made from scratch. Biscuits, all that. When I was growing up, me and my sister, we stood in the kitchen and we made homemade everything, And you start to become less self-sufficient. And my thing was, growing up after my parents split, we were on the system, but really, if you look at it, we really didn't have too much of a choice back then, And I always said that I would never have that happen to me when I get older, that I was going to do everything in my ability to kind of set, the record straight with myself. I didn't want to be dependent on anyone or anything. And I think that all of us, we have our goals and how we want our life to turn out, but it's not guaranteed that way. And the reason why is because there's a lesson for us to be learned. And you can't get a lesson. You can't learn a lesson if you don't have any opposition. You understand? So my whole thing is that we need to start being more self-sufficient and more reliant on ourselves and doing different things. And for me, it's not a struggle for me, but it is to a certain extent, because like over the last 7 years, like I said, I've had so much happen in my life to where I was court ordered to be dependent. I was court ordered to a homeless shelter because, again, of what happened, false accusation and conviction. And I didn't have friends or family. I guess my reasoning for it is that they had to find a way to find me, in case they needed to find me. But the thing about it is that really, when you look at any situation, sometimes it's not always what the obvious thing is. I've always been raised by my teachers to think analytically. These days, everything that you're raised on as good and wholesome or intelligent is being berated. But, I was always taught to think analytically. There's always somebody else's point of view, somebody else's shoes that you can step in for a second. And so when I look at situations and reasons things happen, I don't always take the obvious answer. I try to find at least 2 other alternatives, so I have 3 different situations and why these things could have happened. Now, the system, like I said, having been through it. Oh, this is too long. I can't do this.